Hello, and welcome to Rock the Cash Bar. I'm Ben Mowbray.
And I'm Dianne Gallagher.
Every week we pick one song and do a deep dive into the lyrics to explore all the different ways they've been interpreted.
We will also discuss how the song connected to us on a personal level, focusing on all the embarrassing details.
Glad to have you here. Now enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of Rock the Cash Bar.
Hi. So for our first episode, we had all these plans to make this thing beautiful and polished, but then a little thing called COVID-19 happened, and we're having to do this through Zoom.
And it's the end of the world as we know it.
A little foreshadowing there.
I always thought that I would like watching like Star Trek when I was a kid and like the video communications. I always thought that I would absolutely love that, but I hate it.
It's terrible, right?
Really, really weird. I don't like looking at my own face. I don't like hearing my own voice.
Yeah, I don't think we realized that was going to be a part of it, of how much we'd just be staring at our own flaws while we talk to each other through yeah.
Well, I thought I would be like the captain of a starship. So it's a little strange. It's like, no, I'm just coming to you from my little house.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So I guess since this is the first episode, we should briefly say who we are and how we know each other. Like I said in the intro, I'm Dianne Gallagher.
And I'm Ben Mowbray.
And should we just say we used to be stand-up comedians in Houston?
We met doing stand-up in Houston about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's definitely still part of our lives and part of what we'll be talking about, I'm sure.
Yeah. But this is a music podcast where each week we are going to pick one song and just dive deep into the meanings and the lyrics and all the personal stuff. And before we get to that song, though, we have a segment that we are calling Dressed Up Like a Douche. And in this segment, everybody knows the common misheard lyrics around the world, like, for example, Dressed Up Like a Douche from Blinded by the Light. But what we want to do is every week have everyone write in and tell us their personal misheard song lyric. And so we have one that we'd like to give you first off by our mutual friend, Lucas Harvey. So his... This is a little hard to do without playing the clips. We don't know if we're allowed to play clips yet. But in the beginning of Steve Perry's Oh Sherry, the first lyric, our dear friend Lucas thought he was screaming, "Cinnamon gum!" Which it will always be cinnamon gum from now on.
I'm changing the name to Cinnamon Gum.
Cinnamon gum. That's what's so great about misheard lyrics is you're always like, why on earth would they say that? And yet people are like, nah, that's what I heard.
That's what it is. I believe it. It's true.
All right. First episode, first song of the week. Ben, would you like to go ahead and introduce it?
It's called It's the End of the World as We Know It by my favorite band, R.E.M.
How perfect. First episode, we start off with Ben's favorite band with the most fitting song we could possibly think of.
When I was a kid, I tried to memorize all the lyrics to It's the End of the World as We Know It.
Hold on, define kid. How old?
I guess I probably would have been 14 or 15.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just thought it would make me special somehow. Like if I was the guy who knew all the words to it, it was, I don't know why, but I thought it would make it was going to increase me somehow. So it was the song that I would always like try to scribble in my notebooks when I should have been paying attention in class. I was just constantly going over them. I haven't heard the song in probably a year or so, but I still think I have all the lyrics more or less memorized. We're going to find out, I think.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if you were too embarrassed to sing them, but you could say them very fast. I mean, it's a fast-moving song. So if you want to give it a shot.
I'll try. Do you have the lyrics in front of you?
I do.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a try. It's all right. Here we go. That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes and airplanes. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. Eye of a hurricane. Listen to yourself churn. World serves its own needs. dummy serve your own needs, speed it up a notch, speed, grunt, nose, strength. The ladder starts to clatter with fear of heights, down height, wire in a fire representing 7 games at a government for hire and a combat site. Left of West is coming in a hurry with the Furies breathing down your neck. Team by team reporters, Donald Trump, Jeannie Krupp, look at that low plane, fine, and overflow, population counterflow. Save yourself, serve yourself. I'm lost now.
Oh my gosh. Ben, I'm so impressed. Well, the funny thing about this song I learned in doing a lot of research is that they never put lyrics in their liner notes. Michael Stipe thought it was more interesting, the lyrics that people came up with for themselves. So all over the internet, everyone argues about each line by line lyric. People hear it differently. So I'm hearing what you're saying versus what I found according to songfacts.com. And you can go to 20 different websites and they're going to tell you 20 different things. So that's what makes this song really juicy and really fun, the way all these lyrics are interpreted. But that's really good. So you did this when you were 14. When I was still working at my old job, I left that job in 2013. Definitely, I was in my 30s and I was bored at work and decided I was going to do the same thing. I just decided I'm going to learn these lyrics at, I don't know, 35. And
it's easier than learning to play the piano.
I did not realize what a mushmouth I was and how clumsy and fat tongue I was. I mean, I couldn't get past, here's how far I got. And it's not that I can't memorize the lyrics. I can't physically say them. I would get, that's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes and airplanes. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. That part's easy. I have a hurricane. Listen to yourself churn words. That's how far I get. I fall flat on my tongue. I can't do it.
For the longest time, I thought it was world serves its own needs, dummy serve your own needs.
Well, that's what.
It is.
Well, that's what a lot of lyrics say. And what I have written down is world serves its own needs. Don't misserve your own needs.
Right. I don't think that's right. I think it's dummy serve your own needs.
It's so fucking hard to say don't misserve your own needs anyway. How does Michael Stipe do this?
I spent a lot of time trying to take over Michael Stipe's soul and brain, and I'm pretty sure he says dummy serve your own needs.
It makes sense. So how should we do this? Because I have some, and I get a lot of my information from songfacts.com. And they did a really good job doing a lot of the work for us. Just coming up with like kind of what the band said about the song, what people understand about the song, and then maybe we can go through it line by line a little bit. First of all, what do you think about this song? Like, what do you think was going through his head? Without knowing what the band says about it?
I think he was trying to capture that feeling of panic that was kind of setting in, because I think the song came out in the late 80s, right?
Yeah.
And
I think he wrote it during the Reagan administration.
Yeah, and it was definitely that's part of R.E.M. lore, is that there's another song that came out during the second Bush administration called "Bad Day" that R.E.M. did. Do you remember that video where it was like Michael Stipe was like on CNN? They had the news ticker kind of going down, underneath him. You remember that song? It's been a bad day. Please don't take our picture.
So what I've read is that this song was initially called Bad Day, and then they changed it and then released Bad Day later as a different song.
Yeah, it was like they upped the ante. It's like another 80s rock band criticizing Reagan was kind of boring. I think they raised the stakes, as they say in the theater. It's like, okay, no, it's about the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. I think what strikes me so much about it is how happy that song makes me, and I think everybody else, despite how bleak the lyrics. I mean, it couldn't be more obvious in the title. It's called "It's the End of the World as We Know It," and yet it's a very, very happy song.
Yeah, so I'm reading here that when R.E.M. played this live, the audience reacted with a party vibe that threw off the band. They thought the apocalyptic lyrics would create a more subdued response.
I don't know that I believe that. That's one of the weird things, I think, because like nobody puts together like that drum beat that kicks up. Like, that's clearly a party song.
Exactly.
It doesn't happen by accident. Like it's straight up get moving.
Well, and so it's confusing because in another interview, Michael Stipe said that the lyrics were written to make people smile. The words he used tend to make your mouth smile when you speak them. So what are you doing? You trying to make us subdued, or are you trying to make us happy?
And Lenny Bruce is the only man who's not afraid.
Yeah.
I think that's Michael Stipe's little joke right there. Everybody else is scared to death, but not Lenny. Lenny will be all right.
Well, one thing I never picked up on was all the people with the initials LB, like he does Leonard Bernstein, Leonid Brezhnev, Lenny Bruce, and Lester Bangs.
Yeah.
And so when people asked him about that, he said it came from a dream he had in which he found himself at a party surrounded by famous people who all shared those initials.
Right, which is a very Michael Stipean thing to say. But when I was a kid, like 14 or 15, I was trying to get to the bottom of that mystery, like why LB? And the only thing I could come up with LB, like a pound. Like I thought it had to be a drug reference. It was just,
I like that.
The pounds and pounds of weed that Mike Stipe must have smoked to come up with all of these lyrics. I thought that's what he was referencing.
So is that his history? Is Michael Stipe a pothead? I mean, I never know. Some of these people I can imagine super straight edge or not.
He's not straight edge, but he's definitely a really health conscious guy. He's definitely into yoga. He goes to the dark side of the moon from time to time. He's into astrology and the universe and changing our consciousness and getting beyond the age of Aquarius. He's out there.
I had a tweet the other day I was really ashamed of, but I had to do it. I saw a video of him singing during this pandemic, and I was like, oh, look, Michael Stipe is finally the age I thought he was when I was a kid.
And I finally shaved off his huge, big Santa wizard beard, which is fantastic. I'm glad that he's back to normal.
He's looking great now. If what's the late night talk show host that is no longer?
Oh, David Letterman.
Yeah, if he would just please shave that shit off.
We got to get a nice present for the last guy with the big beard look.
The last guy.
Thanks for sticking it out, man. Nicely done.
It'll be someone from East Texas, I'm sure.
I'm sure it was got to be something like soft and round so that he can't choke on it or swallow it or hurt himself. It's going to have to be a real specific gift.
All right, let's see what else about this song before we kind of just dive into the lyrics. I read that this was heavily influenced by Bob Dylan, especially the way Dylan sang Subterranean Homesick Blues.
Yeah, I could see that. It never occurred to me until you said that. But I could definitely see that. It sounds to me a lot like Hurricane or what's the other, Tangled Up in Blue as well. Do you know that Dylan song?
I don't. That's one of these things I'm probably going to have to beef up my knowledge on is Dylan. Both you and my husband are going to come down hard on me with this.
I'm not a big Dylan. I mean, I like Bob Dylan, but he's really like, how do you get into Bob Dylan? Like, I'm 40, so I started buying music in the mid 90s. Right. And even by that time, like where do you start with Bob Dylan? Like, that he's the greatest American songwriter, right? You can see if you're at Sam Goody and you see the stack of Bob Dylan albums, but which one do you buy? Where do you start? Yeah. It's too big.
It's overwhelming. And I'm already starting off ashamed that I have to start now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why I like to talk about music so much, is because part of it is getting over that level of shame. That because musicians are always the cool guys. They're the cool kids. And if you don't speak their language, if you don't have their vocabulary, if you don't have the categorical knowledge of all the things that they're into, then you feel less than, you feel intimidated. Like, that's part of why I want a podcast, is to get over those feelings or to talk about those feelings.
Exactly. And, I don't have that pressure now as an adult, but as a teenager who loved music and, connected to people with music, I would go home and frantically study music like homework. Like, I have to learn all these other bands, especially the indie bands that people are into, like the local music scene bands. I'm like, I have to go to Record Rack and find the Dead Horse and listen to it so I can be cool.
Excluded. Like, if you get caught in not knowing that band, you're in deep trouble for certain kids.
You're a poser.
Absolutely.
You can wear another band shirt and they're like, oh, cool, you like the same music I do. And then they mention a band and you're like, I don't know that. And they're like, they toss you out.
Yeah, you're done. It's immediate social death.
Glad we don't.
You remember when being called a poser was just the worst thing that you could ever say to anybody? It was a crazy thing. You're out, you poser.
It felt so good to call someone one though.
Yeah, because that meant that you're in.
I know.
You're on the other side of that door.
You also had to spell it correctly, which gave me anxiety as well.
Spelling it like the proper French way with the U.
Yes.
He's a poseur.
My God. So let me see. Is there anything else? Okay. So when someone asked him specifically about this song, he said, because it's like a stream of consciousness rant, basically. And he says the words come from everywhere. I'm extremely aware of everything around me, whether I'm in a sleeping state, awake, dream state, or just in day-to-day life. So that ended up in the song along with stuff I had seen while I was flipping through TV channels. It's a collection of streams of consciousness. Which I get it. And I also know from a friend of mine who makes music, she's like, sometimes you just need lyrics and you just start throwing words in there.
I would imagine that's how it goes. I've never written a song. I don't know. I know some friends who have played in bands, but they do like placeholder lyrics as well. Where
Right.
they do like the bee bop a loop bop, just to actually have the lyrics in there.
Right.
That would be like how many songs do you listen to where you're just like, the other guys in the band should have just told that singer, just like, no, you need another day on the lyrics, man. Get back in the office.
Yeah, we're not phoning this one in.
Mm-hmm. That's far too many yeahs in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, just my favorite R.E.M. song, "Man on the Moon," with all the yeahs in that one. It's good. Mike, come on, you can't just say yeah 9 times in a row. Although I did read somewhere that he did that because he wanted to Kurt Cobain.
Sorry, I think the sound flipped out. He wanted to what? Kurt Cobain?
He wanted to out Kurt Cobain. He took it as a challenge, like all the yeahs in Nirvana songs. Apparently, Michael Stipe took that as a challenge. It's like, oh no, I can do better. I can cram more in.
But as a listener, like, we never mind the yeahs. I mean, I scream yeah. I mean, it feels good. I get it.
It fills the stadium.
Yep. All right. I don't think you said you don't have the lyrics, so we don't do it line by line, but we'll do it like chunk by chunk. So
okay.
That's great. It starts with an earthquake. Birds and snakes and airplanes. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. Mm-hmm. Some people have said that's biblical. There's some biblical, end of the world starting with earthquakes, and I don't know where the birds and snakes and airplanes fit in.
I think it brings it up to modern times. Like if it is indeed biblical, to say that's great, it starts with an earthquake is kind of it's a funny and ironic way to approach the apocalypse. You can see that on social media all over the place today. But it's just hilarious. That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes. Mm-hmm. Those are some of God's creations. But then and airplanes.
Yeah, so the Bible didn't know airplanes were coming. Yeah.
It brings it. It's a really like Michael Stipe-ian thing to do, to take two disparate ideas and jam them together. Did you know Michael Stipe named Concrete Blonde?
No.
Seriously. Yep. That was a Stipe lyric idea that he gave to them.
Oh, I hope they said thank you, because I think it works well.
But then that's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes and airplanes. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. Bringing Lenny Bruce in is a weird thing. That was kind of my introduction to Lenny Bruce. I had no idea who he was.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. That was how I found out. I had to look him up. Like, Lenny Bruce is an American stand-up comedian.
Well, apparently Michael Stipe has got to be a fan of good comedy, because he talks about Lenny Bruce, and then, Man on the Moon, he loves what is his name?
Andy
Kaufman.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he just I think he's just trying to throw in like his loves, especially with all the LB names.
Yeah, like I said, I spent a lot of time reading about Michael Stipe, and if I'm being honest, when I was a teenager, trying to be Michael Stipe. And I think he's attracted to guys like Lenny Bruce and Andy Kaufman because I kind of get the impression from Stipe that he feels kind of not uncomfortable in his own personality, but something close to that. Like, I think he's probably pretty surprised to find that he's a pop star, that he's a rock star.
Right.
Because like he's just this skinny gay kid from Athens, Georgia. He's not a like, that's not who you think of as a rock star. He physically cannot embody it. But now it's his full-time job.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's attracted to people like Andy Kaufman and Lenny Bruce, who are kind of what am I trying to say? Especially Andy Kaufman, who's trying to sort of play with his image and play with his personality and play with audience expectations in a way. I think that's why Stipe is. I don't mean to do the deep dive on it.
No, I think you may have hit on something there. That's probably true. Maybe one day Michael Stipe will listen to this and be like, Ben Mowbray got it right.
Oh, that'll drive my ego into a weird tailspin. Just thinking about it.
All right. I have a hurricane. Listen to yourself churn. World serves its own needs. Dummy, serve your own needs. We're going to go with dummy.
Mm-hmm. I think it is dummy, serve your own needs. Because I think that's something that I know it's something that I've struggled with. Like that's your job, right? The world serves its own needs. You have to serve your own needs. If you're raised a certain way, or maybe raised in a certain place or by certain kinds of people, you're taught to be selfless. Like you're a mother. How old's your son?
5.
So Charlie's 5. So you teach him to get along with others. You teach him how to solve problems collaboratively, or you're trying to, I would imagine.
Oh, we
right?
have to. It's the whole goal as teaching a 5-year-old is trying to tame a wild horse off of selfish behavior and to care what other people, what they need to. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a fundamental part of the human wiring, right? Like you have to install that in your child.
Right. We're not born with it.
Yeah. But there comes a point in your life as you're sort of like progressing into adulthood where you have to go, I got to look out for myself. Like I really do. Like I have to be selfless. I have to act selflessly, but I also have to make sure that I'm taken care of.
Right.
I can't for myself. Nobody else will.
And it speaks so loudly to what's going on right now with this pandemic. Like some people are just obsessed with social media and the news and giving themselves anxiety, and then on the other hand you have people being like, turn it off, meditate, take care of yourself, only control what you can control. I think it's kind of like he's tapping into what some people would really feel at the end of the world.
Dummy, serve your own needs. I don't know. It's a weird, like, obviously, I think it could be, I don't know. Let's get high. Should we pretend to smoke a little pot while we talk about this? Let's do it. All right, everybody. Okay. Imaginary bong rip. I think that's I think that's Michael Stipe's criticism of American culture or Western culture, capitalism in general, when he says, dummy, serve your own needs.
Okay.
I think he's saying that's where the apocalypse begins. It begins with that idea, or that the difficulty of reconciling selflessness with your own self-interests. I think that's where that's if there's a human instinct, if there's a human problem that could bring about the apocalypse, that's what it's going to be.
Interesting. I like it.
Not
somebody eating bat soup, not something so simple as bat soup.
Exactly. It's the bat soup. World serves its own needs, dummy, serve your own needs. It's speeded up a notch?
I have speeded up a notch speed, grunt no strength. The ladder starts to clatter with a fear of height, down height. That's
a lyricist just ratcheting up the tension right there. That's the for sure. I think he's established it. At that point, I think he's established, like, okay, this is modern times. This is the problem in the human brain I want to talk about. And now let's build the tension.
Yeah, these are anxiety. He's building up anxiety here to me. Ladder starts to clatter with a fear of height, down height. Yeah. Wire in a fire represent the 7 games and a government for hire in a combat site.
I've never understood what the 7 games thing was about.
I don't either. And I feel like if I read more and was like a literary genius, maybe I would understand a reference to something that someone else sees so clearly, but I don't.
No, I don't either. 7 games, 7 seals. There are no coincidences.
And a government for hire and a combat site. Yeah, we're going to war. There's government involved. Left her wasn't coming in a hurry with the furies breathing down your neck. Left her wasn't coming? I always thought it was. What is here. Yeah.
I always had that one as left of west. And I thought that was like his way of, like, if you think about it, like again, another big bong rip, but it's like in America, we think of the strange ideas coming from the West, right? Or like we aspire to go West. Look west, young man, stabbing west, go west, that kind of thing. Well, if you're left of west, you're further west. I thought that was a way of being a wordsmith and just like, no, this is from even further out.
God, We just need to get big enough to where we can interview these people afterwards. I want to know.
Left of West is coming in a hurry with the Furies breathing down your neck. And it is team by team reporters, right?
Team by team reporters baffled. I have written trumped, tethered, cropped.
I always thought that lyric was Donald Trump. I always thought Donald Trump appeared in "It's the End of the World as We Know It." Like "It's the End of the World as We Know It" like went into the charts for the first time in 30 years or something like last week, obviously because everybody's latching onto it because it is the end of the world as we know it. Right. And I thought, oh man, everybody's going to be so thrilled when they find out that Donald Trump is actually in that song from 1988.
It's so
but I don't know that he is.
It's maybe, I mean, it's so insane how many Nostradamuses we've had out there that have predicted Donald Trump being president in a time like this. It was on The Simpsons. It was somewhere else. It's insane.
I always remember those lyrics. Yeah, it's the Back to the Future, the Biff Tannen thing is the most bizarre, surreal thing ever, and they obviously, clearly based it on Donald. But I thought that's what that lyric was. I thought it was "Left of West is coming in a hurry with the Furies breathing down your neck." Team by team reporters, Donald Trump, Jeannie Krupp is what I thought that lyric was. And I remember as a kid looking up the name Jeannie Krupp, and I swear to you, I haven't looked it up in 20 years, but I swear to you, I found a reporter named Jeannie Krupp. I thought I had the backstory on that.
Oh my God, we got to look up Jeannie Krupp now.
Can you Google Jeannie Krupp? I think the one that I found was Jeanne or something like that, and Krupp was Krupp, and I swear she was a reporter. But again, that's I'm ripping off the memory banks for that one.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, we'll look into that. Look at that low plane, fine, then overflow, population, common group.
I always love the low flying plane because there's just really there's nothing scarier than a low flying plane.
Right.
I don't know how high planes are supposed to fly, but if there is a low flying plane, something very bad is happening.
You know where I live in Friendswood near Ellington Field. And when I first moved out here, I didn't know they practiced their what is the air show that happens every year. And they rehearsed the week before flying very low over the roof of my house. And I hit the ground. I didn't know what was happening. I was in my yard and I was shaking in my boots because that thing was so low and so loud. So yeah, imagine, Army planes flying low. It's terrifying.
And it's the same kind of like not reluctant attitude, but like Stipe in this song, like it starts with that's great. It starts with an earthquake, but it's like, look at that low plane, fine, and I'm fine with that. It's just a low flying plane. Don't worry about it. Fine, and counterflow.
Yep. Oh, and then it says, but it'll do. Save yourself, serve yourself. Again, he's reiterating. Take care of yourself. World serves its own needs. Listen to your heart bleed.
Oh, listen to your heart bleed? Is that? I always thought it was listen to your heart beat. I guess they both work. Heart bleed
makes sense.
Yeah, heart bleed is a lot starker. Way more to the point.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me what the rapture and the reverent in the right. You vitriol. That's a word I can't say. Say vitriolic.
Vitriolic.
Thank you. Vitriolic, patriotic, slam, fight, bright light. I'll never, ever say that right. Feeling pretty psyched. You think he's getting pumped?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He has to be, because that's what he's coming to. That's what he's saying. He's like there's the idea that you have to let go of your selflessness and serve yourself. And only in a moment of mass panic is that going to really come to light for you, right?
Yeah.
Like saying, like there is that moment in your life where you have to decide, am I helping others or am I helping myself? And there's at no point is it more stark than when it's the end of the world as you know it.
I'm just having a moment here because it wasn't the end of the world, but when our house flooded in Hurricane Harvey, when I realized, all right, we have a foot of water in the house and it's supposed to rain for 4 more days, it's going to rise, it's getting worse. Not for a second did I get down on myself. I almost got happy. I was pumped. I grabbed suitcases. I feel like I'm bragging on myself, but it was just so like crazy to watch myself do this. I had a flashlight in my teeth. I was packing clothes that weren't drenched in water, and I was barking orders like, you go get the raft. We're going to put our kid and our dogs and our suitcases in the raft. We're going to raft through our house out the back door. Like, I was pumped. I was like, let's
Yeah.
do this.
It's times of crisis. Like you rise to the fore. It's real Horatio Nelson shit. You know, it's England expects every man to do his duty, and that's what.
Like, could I have been a soldier?
Yeah, you could have.
Never thought of myself like that. I think I am a fighter.
Good in a crisis.
Man. So then we hit the first, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine.
I feel fine.
Glad
I really love the chorus of that song. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. But then the harmony part in the background is two things. I think I'm pretty sure it's Mike Mills that's singing it, but it's it's time I had some time alone. I think is what he. But then he also sings I might have some time alone.
Oh.
About now, so like it's optimistic. Like, well, I'll have some time alone, but also like I might have some time alone. It's like in the background, he's already thinking like, what if I'm the last man standing?
Ooh.
Well, I'll have some time alone.
You'll have all the time alone. Does that idea, have you ever thought about that? Like last man on earth type thing? Like, would you try to survive, or would you be like, I'm not doing this and hang yourself?
I've been thinking about that because it's usually like where we live, it's usually hurricanes. Like nobody's used to global pandemic, right? We're used to the hurricane mentality where it's either shelter in place, hunker down, or get on the road and get the hell out of town, right?
Right.
And I've always thought that like my essential Britishness kind of takes over. Like when I see people like panicking on the freeways or trying to flee or something like that, I'm always just like, why don't you just die with a little bit of dignity, huh? You don't want to be by barbarians at a gas station.
Yeah, like I'm not a martyr. I mean, last person on earth, I'm like, why would I put this kind of pressure on myself? Bye-bye. I'm not doing it.
I think if I was the last person on earth, I would enjoy it for about a week, and then I just find I'm going to. This has been nice.
Oh, that's a good. I'd be like, let's do some weird things you always wanted to do. Like if you watch Night of the Comet and they go to the mall and they try on all the clothes, like do the dumb stuff, I guess. But then you're like, okay, we're done here. Forever.
Seriously, if you woke up one morning and everybody was just gone, you know, don't think of it like in ugly terms. They're just gone. You know, they've been raptured. There's no dead bodies in the streets or anything like that. It's just empty, completely gone. Where's the first place you go?
I can't fly anywhere. I live in Houston. That sucks. Like, I got to get my car and drive to get to some cool spots first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need more than a second to think about this. What about you?
Oh, I would definitely have to. I would have to go to like the White House or the Pentagon or something like that. I would have to know what the secret rooms look like. I'd need to. Mm-hmm. All right, maybe I would. If I was the last person on Earth, I would probably be around a lot longer than a week or two because there's too many secret rooms. I'd want to go see what that Mormon temple in Salt Lake City is really all about.
Oh, interesting.
I'm going to the top floor of that building. I'm definitely going to the top floor of the Church of Scientology.
Oh,
I'm finding out, man.
I'm learning
so
everything.
Probably the first place I would go is my local is the local Freemason chapter. I got to find out what's going on in there. Just work my way up to it. Like, oh, it's nothing. Okay, good. On to the next.
I think you might find that pretty quickly, unfortunately. All right, let's keep going. He sings his first chorus, and then 6 o'clock TV hour. Don't get caught in foreign tower.
Mm-hmm.
There is a misheard lyric on this. Let me find that. Hold on. Have this written down. Oh, that's not it. 1 second. Okay, so real quick, although the official lyrics are "Don't get caught in foreign tower," many students at Boston University heard the line as "Don't get caught in Warren Towers," which is an undesirable dorm where many freshmen at the university end up living. Obviously, he wasn't saying that.
No. That seems like a pretty self-centered way to think of the lyrics. Like, oh, he's got to be talking about my school and my dorm.
Yeah, my unimportant dorm.
I always really like that, like coming back to it where he says 6 o'clock TV hour, because that's what you would do. Like if there was something horrendous going on in 1988 in the world, like 6 o'clock is when you tune in, everybody gets on the same page, everybody calms down.
Man, that's so crazy to think how that's how the world used to be. Everybody would tune in for the nightly news. We didn't have news hitting us across the forehead every 5 seconds.
Yeah, not even every 5 seconds. I don't know. Today's Sunday, so I got my my usage note from Apple today. I'm up 35% to a
Ben,
total of 10 hours a day.
Ben, I wasn't kidding when I said my screen time was up 94% last week.
It's insane. We're
I'm
just
like,
constantly
whoa.
throwing this stuff through our brains. It's not good. It's
It's
not
we are,
good for us.
as human beings, we are not meant to ingest this much information. Like we
No.
can't catch up as a civilization to this yet. Our brains are like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Mhm. We're not, there's certain problems. Like if you can't do anything about it, then you shouldn't be tracking the problem in real time.
Yeah.
Right. Like there are certain things that like at any given hour or any given day, just like, what are these people doing? They're horrendous. And then by the next day, like, oh, they solved that problem.
Yeah.
Like it was just part of the argument. You can't latch on to one thing. You have to space it out somehow. We need to get back to newspapers, by God.
I know. It's insanity. All right. Don't get caught in foreign tower. Just it's something, is it just because it's coming crashing down?
Yeah, I always thought that was just like in a time of panic, you got to go home. Don't get caught someplace you don't understand. Don't get stuck in a tower.
Okay.
Go what's familiar.
Slash and burn, return, listen to yourself churn, lock him up in uniform, book burning, bloodletting. This is just more like chaos ensuing.
Yeah.
Every motive escalate, automotive incinerate, light a candle, light a motive, step down, step down.
Mm-hmm. I really like it because he's really put some imagination, some real thought into what the end of the world would look like. I've always loved that line, let every motive escalate. Because that's probably what's going to happen. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of like sitting in my house, like nervous. And I'm not necessarily nervous about the virus. I'm not necessarily nervous that anybody that I know or love is going to get the virus and fall ill. What I am worried about is the escalation. Like, I'm worried about some nutty person wigging out and starting to do crazy things.
Right.
I think, I mean, obviously social distancing is going to have to end at some point. It's going to end with an event. I really think that that's going to be some weird like barbecue cookout in some weird small town where we're just going to just take over the center of town, and everybody who's not afraid of this is going to come out, and I don't know, there's going to be a disaster. What's going to happen? But something's going to happen, and probably next week.
Oh God. Yeah, because you told me on Monday that all of us will know someone who has the virus by Friday, and Friday came, and I was like, ha! I still only know that one person that I know that has it. So yeah. I'm okay. And that person lives in Geneva, Switzerland. So I'm not real scared right now.
But the motives will escalate. There are people out there that have different ideas. There are people out there who don't necessarily.
Yeah.
There are people who have been preparing for this or something like it.
Yes.
And at some point, they're going to look into their gun cabinet or into their, whatever their prepper hanger looks like.
Yeah, this is not a virus to them. It's their belief system coming to life, and they're ready. Yeah, I agree. Watch your heel crush. Uh-oh. Is that how you heard the lyric?
Yeah, watch your heel crush. Uh-oh, this means no fear, cavalier, renegade, steer clear, a tournament of lies. Offer me solutions, offer me alternatives, and I decline.
Yeah, he's like, nah, I'm just gonna sit here.
Which again, like he's really put a lot of thought into what now that we're living in an apocalyptic time, it's a lot easier to see these things that he saw. But like, offer me solutions, offer me alternatives, and I decline. Like that's what's happening here. Social distancing, no thank you. Not shaking hands, no thank you. The bars are closed, I'm not gonna listen to that kind of thing. Like that's absolutely what's happening. Like if you offer
he's being that guy that I'm mad at right now, where I'm like, stay your ass at home so we can get through this.
Exactly. Yeah. Show me a way out of this, and I'm not gonna take it. Because it would be exciting. Wouldn't it be exciting to actually be in the end of times? Like if you really thought, if things progressed or digressed to a point where we're reaching, what's the word that I'm looking for? You're reaching that final tipping point, right?
Right. I know what you mean.
Do you think that the people who had survived that long are the sort of people who would want to pull back from the edge, or aren't they the sort of people who just be like, well,
let's go out.
Interesting times. Might as well go out with a bang.
Yeah, I remember a friend of ours, when Hurricane Ike hit, just took his clothes off and ran out into the middle of it. Running down the street naked, like, bring it. And I'm like, oh, that's what he wants to do.
I know it probably doesn't feel this way right now, but you're probably really lucky that Charlie's only 5 years old going through this. Because if you were trying to go through it with 17 or 18-year-old Charlie,
God.
can you imagine trying to control a 17 or 18-year-old dude through something like this?
Everyone
I
I'm
was
talking to that
17-year-old
has
dude.
teenage children, they're losing their minds. They're like, I just want to hang out with my friends. And it's like, we all do. God damn it.
I think when you're that age, like you physically can't stop yourself from doing stupid things. Like
No.
there's just the thrill. I guess it's kind of similar to what we were just talking about, where it's just like it's bad for you. You know it's only going to hurt you. You know it's only going to cause problems, but it's so exciting. You have to do it.
Well, teenagers don't have a sense of mortality. They haven't lived long enough to see enough of their friends die making stupid mistakes like we are as adults. That's why we are like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Where teenagers like, it'll be fine. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a memory.
Yeah. When you're a kid, you haven't been hurt often enough or hard enough to know that you need to protect yourself.
Yeah. All right. So more chorus. I feel fine. Into the world. I feel fine. Okay. Last section. The other night I drifted nice continental drift divide. Now, some people say that lyric is wrong, and it's the other night I dreamt of lions, a continental drift divide.
I always thought it was the other night I tripped and lied, continental drift. And again, I thought it was Michael Stipe just ramming words and ideas all together.
Right.
Mm.
Mountains sit in a line, Leonard Bernstein, and then he goes into all the LB names.
Mm-hmm. Leonard Bernstein, Leonid Brezhnev,
Lenny
Lenny
Bruce
Bruce,
and Lester
and
Bangs.
Lester Bangs. And again, I just want to thank Michael Stipe for it, because Lester Bangs, that was my introduction to Lester Bangs as
I
well.
have no idea who that is. Tell me.
Oh, yes, you do. You
I
do know
do?
who Lester Bangs is. Yeah. You ever see Almost Famous?
Yeah.
The music journalist that Philip Seymour Hoffman plays. That's Lester Bangs.
Oh, okay.
Lester Bangs was like, he was a famous music journalist. And that was sort of my entree into that. I got to read a couple of articles that Lester Bangs had written, and that led me to other music and other ways of thinking about it. But yeah, the famous, just like, that's what made them poets. That's Lester Bangs.
Gotcha. Then he says, so I have some notes on this too. Birthday party, cheesecake, jelly bean, boom. You symbiotic, patriotic, slam. It says slam butt. I thought it was slam dunk. Net. Right. Hold on. Let me find. Okay. Peter Buck tells a different story about the jelly bean Lester Bangs boom reference in the song. In the liner notes for his part lies, part heart, part truth, part garbage. I can't say it, garbage. He writes that he and Stipe went to a party at a journalist's house in 1980 when they first came to New York. The guys from Joe King Carrasco and Lester Bangs were there. All they had was birthday cake and jelly beans, and we were starving and ate that. A random story that popped into a song 8 years later. At the time, I was really proud of that song.
I would take Peter Buck at his word for that.
Yeah, it sounds believable.
Yeah, Peter Buck doesn't have Michael Stipe's history of obfuscation and building mysteries and trying to be an elliptical poet. Peter Buck's just there to play the guitar, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then that's the last main lyrics, and then just into the world as we know it over and over, and he feels fine. So that's his summary of the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. And I feel fine. Oh.
You know what? Now I think, I mean, so you would know, are R.E.M. completely broken up forever? No chance of a
Yeah, there's not really a chance of them getting back together. I don't think. I mean, I really can't see them doing a reunion tour because they've all moved off to different things.
Right.
And you could argue that R.E.M. broke up in like 96 or 97 when Bill Berry, their drummer, quit the band. He had a massive brain aneurysm towards the end of the Monster tour. And he quit the band and went off to be a farmer. I think he's still in Georgia, or he might be in the Carolinas or something like that. So it's like there was a famous Stipe quote after that happened where it's just like, well, I mean, we're a three-legged dog now. We just have to figure out a way to walk with 3 legs. And I don't know, like as a longtime R.E.M. fan, I don't know if they ever really figured out how to do it. Like, I don't know much about music, but the secret weapon of R.E.M. was always Bill Berry and Mike Mills, the bassist and the drummer. You go back and you listen to like Radio Free Europe and some of their early songs, you realize, like, I always think of them as this like sort of like soft rock, indie rock outfit. But if you listen to Radio Free Europe or their earlier stuff, you realize this was a dance band. This was a party band.
Yeah.
Like these.
I love Radio Free Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the same way. Like some bands just can't function not as a whole. I mean, you look at Beastie Boys when
Mhm.
when Yao died, it was over.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't really ever come back. I don't think that we'd ever see. I would love to see an REM reunion tour, but I don't think that we'll ever see it.
Yeah, my whole point in saying that is I'll never get to hear this song live. All right.
I got to see it live a couple of times. The first big concert that I went to was this is the only cool thing about me. I went to go see REM in 1995. The opening act was Radiohead. So
Oh, wow.
the very first band that I ever saw live was Radiohead in 1995. So
Oh, amazing.
there's hipster cred for you.
Nice.
Mm.
All right. So any last words, any other experiences on this song before we wrap up our song of the week?
I absolutely love talking about REM. It's my favorite thing in the world. It is not the end of the world. Well, it may be the end of the world as we know it, but it's not the actual end of the world.
No.
We'll be fine.
I think we're gonna be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay inside so we can all be fine.
Yeah.
All right, we have one last segment before we close it out, and this segment is where Ben and I both just divulge one guilty pleasure song each.
Oh well, I think sticking with the REM theme, like I say, I'm a huge big REM fan, and I love Shiny Happy People. I love it. I was listening to Shiny Happy People again. It's a fantastic song.
Oh
Kate's
man.
vocals on it are fantastic. The dance is silly but fun. I love it. I love
Well,
Shiny Happy People. I love Stand.
I was going to go with a different one, but since you said that, I have one song by this one band that I hate, who is closely related to REM, and one that I love. And maybe it's not a guilty pleasure because I think a lot of people actually like it, but I'm going with Rock Lobster. It makes me so happy. It wasn't a rock. It was a rock.
Rock Lobster.
Yeah.
I really like, again, probably we another huge big bong rip on this one, but I did like Rock Lobster. What's the name of the guy who says it wasn't a rock? Was it Fred something?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's the time that I remember, and I apologize if this is offensive. I don't mean it that way. That was the first time I think I was ever aware of the gay accent. Do you know what I mean? like the gay inflections. That was the first time that it entered my head, and it entered my head in such like a poppy, jaunty, happy sort of way. Like I wonder, like what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say this in an intelligent and sensitive way. Maybe I should just say it. When marginalized people sort of enter the consciousness, like it's always a good thing. Like that's what I love about Rock Lobsters, where it's like how many people were positively like had a first experience with gay culture because of Rock Lobster that was entirely positive.
Yeah, or they were like his name is Fred Schneider. They heard his voice and heard their own inner voice and was like, there we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's the band's id right there, man.
All right, Ben. Well, I think we did it. I think we finally did our first full episode of Rock the Cash Bar. How do you feel about it?
I feel really good. I liked it.
All right, let's see if I can put this thing together and actually get it out into the world for people to hear.
Give it a shot.
All right, you guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Rock the Cash Bar.
Well, that's a wrap on this week's episode of Rock the Cash Bar. Tune in every Monday to find out the new song of the week. Send us an email at rockthecashbarpodcast@gmail.com and tell us your personal misheard lyrics so we can read them on the podcast. You can also reach us at Twitter and Instagram at rockthecashbarpodcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcast or wherever this podcast was downloaded.